I'm Aoife from the Children and Young Persons team with the NCBI. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about learning to use listening skills for orientation. Hearing plays a very important part in orientation and mobility. When a child cannot access the world efficiently through vision, they must learn to use other senses more effectively. Sounds that are reflected off surfaces indoors may help someone to avoid obstacles, while traffic clues outdoors will help guide someone in the right direction and aid safety. Young students with vision impairments can use auditory feedback to get useful information about their environment. Even preschoolers can learn to locate classrooms and can use distant sounds down the hallway for orientation purposes. Good listening skills are needed for spatial navigation, and this involves sound identification, localizing, and tracking. Instruction and practice is needed to develop the use of the other senses for travel and for finding things in the environment. By encouraging your child to practice skills in an everyday context with the family, you will improve their motivation and confidence in their independence. The ability to identify a particular sound source will help your child know where they are and give them a clue as to where they should be going. Many children with a vision impairment will be aware of sound, but that does not mean they are actually listening or understanding what they are hearing. Sounds, when not paired with clear visual information, can be very confusing. The child needs to understand, identify, and locate sound to learn to use hearing to interpret the world around them. It is important that we help them by giving particular sounds meaning, such as by describing the source of the sound and its purpose, or, where possible, physically allowing the child to explore the source of the sound. Discuss the sounds that relate to specific areas, for example, the television in the living room, the radio in the kitchen, so they can tell the room by sounds. It's important to practice outside as well, listening for birds, wind blowing in the trees, a lawnmower, cars, an aeroplane. Spend time listening to traffic and learn to tell the difference between the sounds of a motorbike, a car, and a truck. A game to play to have fun developing this sense would be the sound scavenger hunt. Give the child a list of specific sounds to find, so they go on a quest through the house in search of them. Young children with a vision impairment are often bombarded with sound, and they need to learn how to discriminate between background noise and sound that has relevance to them. This is known as selective listening, using only the sounds that you need. Go through the house and get your child to identify noises from different rooms. Get them to identify where they are in relation to the noise. Ask them, is there more than one sound? For example, traffic noise through an open window at the same time as the radio from the room next door. Listen to each sound separately and discuss the effect that the sounds have on each other. For example, does the sound of the television drown out the sound from the fridge? Outside, ask them if they can identify the direction from which the traffic is coming or going. What happens to the sound of the distant lawnmower when a big truck passes by? In time, a busy shopping area can also be used, with the child trying to identify particular shops, for example, the clinking of cutlery from a cafe or loud music from a specific clothes shop. If they use a cane, they can practice contacting different objects and identifying if they are wood, metal, plastic, or concrete, for example. A young child develops hand-ear coordination much later than hand-eye coordination. So, by teaching a child to reach for noisy toys, we are teaching them to localize sounds. They will learn to use sound clues for orientation and exploring the environment in a safe and effective way. Play sound hide and seek to learn to localize a stationary sound. Place a sound source in a room. You could use music on your phone or a noisy toy or just clap your hands. Get your child to point towards the direction of the sound. Start with one sound, move on to a combination so they can practice sound discrimination too. Moving towards a stationary sound, using self-protection skills with their hands out in front, get them to walk towards the sound of the noise. Ask them to think about how they know when they are getting closer. Get them to find their way out of a room using sound localization. Make a noise outside the open door. You could even disorient them first by turning them around. Tracking sounds helps to predict movement patterns of objects in motion. This is an essential skill for when your child will be moving through busier areas. Auditory toys are a good resource, such as games using balls with bells in them. Remote control cars can be used so that the directional movement of sound is experienced. Stand your child in the center of a room. Move a sound source, firstly from side to side, and ask them to point at it as it moves. As they master the skill, move it in all directions around them. Think about the position of the sound and work on positional terms. Ask them, is it above them or below them? Let them tell you if it's in front of them or behind them. The radio is on my right, so if I turn to the left, it will be behind me. Again, using body protection, ask the child to move towards the moving sound source. Encourage them to follow the sound source as you move in different directions. Work on sound memory by asking the child to locate an object by giving a brief auditory clue. For example, tapping on a chair a couple of times or turning on and off the tap at the sink. This will help to learn to find objects where there is not a continuous sound being emitted. For any further information on any of the topics covered, please get in touch with us directly. Our helpline number is 1850 334353. Thank you.